Tonight, a UFO mystery in the Arizona desert.
There's obviously something going on in Arizona.
A government whistleblower going public for the first time, with video evidence of anomalies in the sky, some never seen before.
What they are, I have no idea.
Why are Border Patrol and Air Force pilots encountering so-called UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena? And what are they?
We have no rational explanation that we can come up with.
Why are they coming here?
I think there is a portal site in there, and that portal site has been contained by the federal government.
Have they been coming for centuries? Is it part of Native American culture and mythology?
The verbal history is passed down generation to generation.
And has the American military mastered alien technology as well?
Let me be clear. UAP are real. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies.
Or could the explanation be something less otherworldly, but potentially much scarier?
We don't really have control of our U.S. airspace.
After the plague of mystery drones over New Jersey and other states this past fall, concerns that America's enemies are making incursions into our airspace.
What we saw was more sophisticated than I think anything I've ever seen before.
Now, is there new urgency to the Arizona anomalies?
There's been a lot of people reporting a lot of things out of Arizona, particularly along the border.
Join us as we analyse the evidence.
There's an orb straight ahead of me.
And investigate the unexplained. Hunting UFOs, the desert sky mystery. Good evening, I'm Ross Coulthart. I've come here to the Arizona desert, close to the border with Mexico, because this is a restricted airspace where military pilots are testing military aircraft. And the incredible thing is, for years, they've been seeing and reporting anomalous objects in these training ranges. We're going into the field to investigate allegations that the US may well have recovered non-human technology. And to that effect, I'm on my way to meet my very first source on the trail of this mystery.
Great to finally meet you in person, sir. I'm Ross
Nice to meet you, Bob.
His name is Bob Thompson, and he's never spoken on camera before. Thompson's an Army veteran who spent 14 years with US Customs and Border Protection.
Why are you talking to us, Bob?
Well, I feel it's an important topic. I think getting this information out is an important step in the whole disclosure process.
Thompson was part of the Tucson sector's Special Operations Detachment Mobile Response Team, focused on counter-terrorism and drug interdiction. Eventually, he became part of the Arizona Air Coordination Center, which monitors the airspace along the US border. It was always a challenging job. And then, he says, it got weird.
There's a lot of stuff that's been cited out here.
Like what?
Well, for one, the rubber duck video. This is ground zero for where the rubber duck was filmed.
This sighting was recorded and tracked by an RC-26B aircraft on an infrared camera on November 23rd, 2019. And like many famous UFO videos, it's become known by a nickname derived from that unusual shape. It's called the rubber duck.
This video is taken down on an area known as the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Area. They were tracked and got called for a group of illegal aliens that had come through and were out there looking for them when this thing popped through the viewfinder.
Were you able to speak to the pilots from the surveillance aircraft that recorded this?
I was, and I actually spoke to the sensor operator. They seemed to think it was searching for something.
The rubber duck immediately struck the pilots as peculiar. Its shape didn't match a plane or a drone, and neither did its cold thermal signature. That's why they decided to track it for a full 40 minutes.
They definitely thought it was anomalous.
And the rubber duck wasn't the only anomalous video that came across Bob's desk.
Now, during your role in Border Protection, there came a time when you suggested to your superiors that you start preparing some kind of research report into what was being seen.
I did put together a report, what they call an issue paper, and get that subject kind of on the record.
Higher-ups at Border Patrol showed little interest in the rubber duck video, at which point Bob says he received permission to share it externally.
And you thought the public had a right to know about it?
I think they do. I'm not saying that, it is hostile, but if it is, having that early warning, I think, is probably a good thing.
So Thompson shared his videos with UFO investigator Andy Martial.
What was your first impression of those videos? I mean, I'll be honest with you, initially I thought they might be balloons.
I knew right away what I had in my hands. I sat through it and watched it, from beginning to end, and I just couldn't find anything that I can attribute to something earthly or man-made that I knew of.
In addition to the rubber duck, Andy has now released and nicknamed more videos on Bob's behalf. They include La Bruja, Spanish for the witch, shot in the Tohono O'odham Nation reservation on May 30th, 2021.
It showed an anomalous object that almost had a human figure to it that was anywhere from 20 to 30 feet in the air.
So those cows are reflecting back that black hot. The object up at the top is white, which means it's ice cold.
But if it was a drone, you would, number one, see the heat signature, and number two, if they were anywhere close to them, it would have startled them.
Roughly 2 years after Bob and Andy leaked the videos online, CBP officially released them, along with hundreds of pages of email correspondence between Bob and his supervisors. So we know the videos are not some kind of CGI hoax, and they represent a mere fraction of the reported sightings.
Like I said, have stories of hundreds of agents seen different things, different types of craft, orbs, small triangles, big triangles.
So you've spoken to Border Protection agents, but you've also spoken to Air Force personnel as well.
Air Force personnel as well.
Recent FAA reports confirm that US Air Force pilots have reported numerous encounters with strange flying objects, sometimes in swarms, in their Arizona training ranges. One even struck the canopy of an F-16 Viper jet, damaging the multi-million-dollar craft.
So there was a concern among pilots.
Safety concerns.
That there might be a collision with these objects they were seeing.
There could be.
Famed former Pentagon UAP investigator Lou Elizondo, who testified to Congress on these matters, agrees.
They're seeing something anomalous, aren't they?
Well, what I can tell you is that there's been a lot of activity, a lot of people reporting a lot of things out of Arizona, particularly along the border.
Could all these incidents have prosaic explanations? Well, sure. So before wasting our time and yours chasing UFOs, we went to chat with an expert on the ground.
Ali, at long last, lovely to meet you.
It's great to meet you, Ross.
NewsNation's border reporter, Ali Bradley, has her own intel regarding flying objects on the border, drones used by cartels to smuggle drugs or conduct reconnaissance.
Now we're seeing drones more and more used to be kind of scouting tools, to watch Border Patrol, to be the eyes in the sky, if you will, so that they can send individuals over.
For the past decade, cartels have been using consumer-grade drones like this one, recovered with over 6 pounds of methamphetamine. But now they're upgrading the fleet.
The cartel used to use Chinese drones. Very normal, that's what you can buy at the store. But they switched over to using French and Russian agricultural drones.
So bigger drones.
They can move 5 to 10 kilos of drugs across the border. And the biggest issue there is the technology that they're using, we're not able to intercept like we were with the Chinese drones.
So what do you think, Ali? Do you think that what's happening here with the cartels could explain the anomalous activity that they're seeing in the military training ranges?
You know, the cartel wants intel on the United States. That's their MO. That is their #1 priority, is to always be one step ahead of us. So what better place to do that than to infiltrate our military installations in some capacity?
Unless you were in a coma in late 2024, you know that the mystery drone threat is more than mere speculation. For weeks, New Jersey residents were reporting strange aircraft in the area. When officials began to investigate, things only got more concerning.
They don't know where the drones are coming from, they don't know who's doing it, they don't know why they're doing it, but they say there's no credible threat.
The mystery behind these purported drones remains. The military admits it often cannot detect, track or down these objects. Defence also recently admitted to one senator it's mystified as to their origin. NewsNation's Rich McHugh has his own memorable experience while out reporting the story.
I think we've seen about 40 or 50 of these drones. In fact, there's one over my shoulder right there. One after another, these drones appeared in the night sky. If you look real close, they look like fixed-wing aircraft, about 8 to 10 feet wide, colorful, white blinking lights.
That is not a plane.
Definitely not an airplane, but what was it?
Are the Arizona sightings similar sophisticated drones? That's what the Defense Department's AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, claims. But is that explanation plausible?
It is fact that UAP often, but not always, resolve into readily explainable sources.
But are these Arizona videos and all those reports to the FAA so easily explainable?
There's obviously something going on in Arizona along the border areas, more than just illegal immigration.
In fact, Bob and Andy are so certain they've submitted the videos to one of the country's top scientific groups for analysis.
We've analyzed those cases using physics and all the tools of science.
What did they conclude? That's next.
So we've seen the videos and we've heard from Bob Thompson, the former Border Protection Officer, and he clearly thinks those objects are something anomalous. How to resolve this? Well, I've come here to Rocket City, Huntsville, Alabama, where it just so happens there's a conference of the Scientific Coalition for the Study of UAPs. There are a bunch of scientists who think, despite the stigma, despite the ridicule, it is possible to still investigate the phenomenon. So let's see what they say.
Rich Hoffman, head of the SCU, is familiar with Bob's leaked videos. Welcome, Rich.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you again, Ross.
So just explain to me, how do you investigate something like UAP?
We take all of the best cases, the ones with actual good, solid sensory data that we can actually go after and really study.
With that, we take a closer look at our data, Bob's videos. Okay, so La Bruja, the witch, it was captured in, I think, February 2020 using a mobile scope truck. What can you say about that? It doesn't appear to be moving under any kind of propulsion system. Couldn't it just be a balloon?
Well, let's take a look at the wind speed on that day and at that time. And I say, well, wait a minute, there's no wind on that. So what's moving that? It's not going to be a balloon.
Do you think it's under apparent control?
Yes, I do. I think that in this case, this one is an unknown. And it tends to fall into the more validated UAP that we can't understand.
Well, we have an object here moving along at a steady clip in the desert, and it doesn't seem to conform to the shape of a drone or a plane. The camera is in a mode where black is hot, which means that the potentially anomalous object here is very cold. And that's strange, because if it's an animal, it should be warm.
And if it was a machine, you'd expect it to be hot as well.
Yes, because you'd expect some kind of exhaust or propellant. And so the temperature of this object, as well as its shape, suggests that this is something worth studying and trying to explain. The thing is, videos don't just stand on their own. We also have the corroborating story of not just regular witnesses, but military people who are trained to identify foreign aircraft. And yet, they're not able to identify some of these objects that are violating military airspace on a regular basis.
So perhaps there are sightings that defy explanation. But what will the scientists make of the most compelling video of them all?
What do you think of the rubber duck?
That's next. When Border Patrol officer Bob Thompson and UFO researcher Andy Mashael released their UAP videos, many people ridiculed them.
So the blowback continued from the skeptics and the debunkers?
They did. You get the gamut of stuff. It's birds, it's balloons, it's drones.
But evidence kept pouring in of strange encounters in the Arizona skies. Like this cockpit voice recording of a 2018 incident between a commercial airline pilot and yet another UAP over Phoenix.
Was anybody above us that passed us like 30 seconds ago?
Number 71 Papa Golf negative.
I don't know what it was. It wasn't an airplane.
That's why they pressed on, submitting their videos to the SCU, the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. And rather than dismissing those sightings, the group took one of them, the so-called rubber duck video, seriously enough to commission a 47-page report. It was authored by this man.
Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Peter Reali, SCU member and retired electrical engineer.
What are we seeing here?
Well, first thing is, you see all the green writing is called metadata. And with that data, you can actually analyze a lot about the actual video.
What are the three issues that you think makes it an anomalous object?
The shape, it's certainly not a bird. The settings in the metadata, that white is cold compared to black that's hot.
That means, like La Bruja, it can't be a drone, since the engine would read as hot.
The third one is, you can't tell from this video which way the wind is blowing, but the pilots said it was going against the wind.
And that means it can't be a balloon, since balloons drift with the wind, not against it. That's why former Pentagon UAP investigator Lou Elizondo thinks it should be taken seriously.
What do you think of the rubber duck?
It's very perplexing. This is not an atmospheric anomaly or an aberration. This is something real, something tangible. And so we need to get to the bottom of it. It's over the border of the United States, right?
But it gets stranger.
What were you able to figure out by looking at the GPS coordinates?
The green is, you see the actual GPS coordinates on there, is the path, and see it circling.
Circling for 40 minutes? But how and why? The scientists of the SCU are as perplexed as we are.
Is there any natural, prosaic explanation that you were able to come up with that can explain how an object with no visible means of propulsion could circle?
No, not that I can think of.
So a genuine anomaly.
A genuine anomaly.
We have no rational explanation that we can come up with to explain how you can get this effect, what it would be doing, moving for this length of time.
Curiously, some of the objects spotted on the East Coast last year also seemed to defy explanation. I spoke to John and Jerry Tedesco, two citizen UAP researchers who recorded these strange objects on their hyperspectral camera. They're hard to make out, and the Tedesco brothers say that's no accident.
They seem to be, lack of a better term, almost like they seem to be absorbing light. They're not reflecting light at all. There's some cases where they come up, they're darker than the rest of the environment.
Almost like a black body source.
Like a black body source.
Do you believe that what you are seeing is potentially evidence of a non-human intelligence?
Yeah, I think we have to consider that. It's something that needs to be considered. I mean, we have to collect more data, but I mean, there's some bizarre features of these objects. So at least the technology is quite different from what we've seen previously. And it certainly doesn't align with current day technology. The changes in spectral signatures and the sudden appearances and disappearances, and some of the flight behaviors are very strange.
So if the UAP hypothesis is worth pursuing, we wanted to know, could those Arizona sightings have anything to do with the most famous Arizona sighting of all?
There are at least 10 to 20,000 witnesses.
Could there be more secrets buried across the state?
He said, that's the way we do things. We hide things in plain sight. He said, right under the noses of the public.
Stay with us.
Arizona is clearly something of a UAP hotspot. That's why we've come here to Phoenix to investigate what is probably the biggest mass sighting in US history. Hey Lynn, how are you? Good to finally meet you at long last.
Dr. Lynn Keatai is a physician. So what's she doing at a UFO museum? Well, she's one of the many Arizonans who witnessed the most famous mass UAP sighting in the state's history, the famed Phoenix Lights incident of 1997. She's spent the years since making a scientific case that it defies normal explanation. This series of sightings took the state by storm on March 13th, 1997, when thousands of witnesses across hundreds of miles reported anomalous objects in the sky.
Some people saw a structured craft, not just lights.
Oh yes, either V-shaped or boomerang shaped or triangle shaped.
Take me to the 13th of March, 1997.
About 8:30 that evening, I saw lights pop up, 3 lights, far north, and about 20 to 10, suddenly I see 6 lights pop on at a distance. I run out there with my video camera, and as I'm fumbling to get it focused, these 6 lights had turned to 3, massive 3 endpoints of a V or triangle.
How many witnesses are you aware of that witnessed that event?
There are at least 10 to 20,000 witnesses. So
what
close.
were they saying they saw?
It was very silent. We have pilots and professionals that were right underneath these, what they called canisters of spinning energy, that they would look up and think that it was going to drop down on them.
However, not everyone took the sighting seriously, including then-Governor Fife Symington.
Let me just say that I believe it a serious offense for anyone, human, space alien, or otherwise, to engage in mysterious activity in our nighttime skies.
A decade later, Symington would not only admit to having witnessed the Phoenix Lights himself, he'd also admit to believing it was an alien craft. At the time, though, he was successful in downplaying what he and everyone else had seen.
That put a lid on it for a while. But as an investigator myself, I called every military base, and I get a call from one of the heads of PR at the Air National Guard, and she says, "Oh, Dr. Lynn, I think we know what those lights were back in March." And she says, Maryland Air National Guard was in town sending off military illumination flares in Operation Snowbird.
Flares became the official explanation. But Dr. Keatai says the Air Force failed to duplicate with flares what people say they saw.
3 Air National Guards came in town right before the 3rd anniversary to show everyone, they really publicized it, the Phoenix Lights, and talk about a joke. Not only did they fall apart immediately, they tried to make a triangle, and one of the lights just fizzled out. There was huge smoke trails, just what flares do to date. The Phoenix Lights have never been reenacted or explained.
Do you buy the line that the Phoenix Lights were flares?
Well, they weren't flares, we know that. So what you're referring to is something we call white phosphorus flares, usually dropped out of the end of an aircraft. They're very luminous, and they're used for nighttime illumination or for targeting.
Sure.
What happens is that they flare up, they come down on a parachute, and then they dissipate. They burn out, right?
That didn't happen.
That did not happen.
2 just disappeared.
Let's assume hypothetically that it's an alien intelligence. Why would a non-human intelligence go and fly craft over a town like Phoenix in such an overt way?
Phoenix itself and Arizona itself is open. And there's a large history here of Native Americans that are very open to these phenomena. It's been happening for centuries. Supposedly there are vortexes, they call them, and portals, and as the Native Americans, they believe there's a portal or gateway in that area.
These vortexes are said to be concentrated centres of energy, which it's claimed act as interdimensional portals. Yes, this theory seems far-fetched, and yet the portals exist, according to John Dover, a retired paranormal investigator with the Navajo Rangers.
Have you heard of the portals?
Oh yeah. We've got areas on our reservation. You could actually walk into one of these things, not even see it.
Is it part of Native American culture and mythology that there have been visitations from other people?
The verbal history is passed down generation to generation exactly as it was told. So they talk about it. They talk about what they call holy people or gods coming to them and imparting knowledge.
Dover and others point to ancient petroglyphs like these, which depict odd humanoid figures as potential evidence that non-human intelligence has been visiting their lands for centuries. And remember, one of the more puzzling Border Patrol videos, La Bruja, was recorded on Native American tribal territory.
Do you believe that those ancestors of yours saw those craft?
I believe they did. The evidence points that way. I don't know if you've ever tried to make a petroglyph on your own with modern tools. It is hard, really hard work. And yet they took all that time and effort to put these things on the wall. They're actually recounting historical events that they actually witnessed. What we're starting to see, what the evidence leads to, is the idea that these things all involve dimensional travel.
Really?
And believe it or not, Bob Thompson says some of his colleagues in Border Patrol have also reported encounters with interdimensional portals.
I've gotten, eyewitness reports, statements from agents that have told me that they've seen other things, including, openings of portals even on some of these cameras.
I beg your pardon? So agents have told you they've seen portals?
Portals opening in the sky.
Could hidden portals explain the recurrence of UAP activity in Arizona? And has the government quite literally buried the secrets that could solve the mystery of the Arizona UAPs?
I think there is a portal site in there, and that portal site has been contained by the federal government because they probably can't control it.
That, plus Bob Thompson's never-before-seen video, next.
Our investigation now takes us to Sedona, Arizona, long considered the capital of American New Age spirituality. It's also a UFO hotspot, and if you believe the locals, they think they've got the answer to crack our mystery. Aha, Jeremiah.
Ross, how are you?
Good to see you at long last.
Jeremiah Horstman and Alexandra Caldwell have been exploring the Sedona area for more than a decade. They're among the many people who believe there's an interdimensional portal here, which is the original source of the UAP visitations and is now part of a secret government base dedicated to UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering.
I think there is a portal site in there, and that portal site has been contained by the federal government.
Yes, of course, secret government programs concerning non-human intelligence and technology sound absurd. But multiple credible sources have stated that there is a program known as Immaculate Constellation, dedicated to UAPs.
Which is the parent program, is the language used for UAP crash retrieval, reverse engineering, and apparently a very large database.
Respected journalist Michael Schellenberger spoke to me about Immaculate Constellation last year and then testified to Congress about it.
Unfortunately, there is a growing body of evidence that the U.S. government is not being transparent about what it knows about unidentified anomalous phenomena.
And we're trying to figure out if the United States has salvaged stuff, and the rumours we keep on hearing are that perhaps it's underground.
Yes, and you're more or less walking distance from what we believe is one of those underground facilities.
You actually think there's one here somewhere?
Right here.
Alex, as you've described an incident where you saw a disc being accompanied by or pursued by helicopters. Tell me what you saw.
So we were in our backyard. It was approximately 10, just after 10 a.m. in the morning.
So it's the morning, clear day?
In the morning, clear day.
What do you see?
So we see 7 Apache helicopters fly overhead, and we took a picture with what we had with us, which was just an iPad. But you can see in the photograph a silver UAP of some sort.
They were following it or chasing it?
Looked like the helicopters were escorting it.
Additionally, Jeremiah and Alexandra have taken photos of what they call a square-shaped hillside entrance with an intense light emanating from inside. Anyone would be sceptical about such claims in the absence of hard evidence. The thing is, though, we've spoken to Jake Barber, a former military operative who says he actually flew helicopters for a secret government UAP program himself.
My work has included the recovery of downed UAP of non-human origin.
So tell me about the moment when you realised that you were involved in a retrieval of non-human technology, alien tech.
So it became very clear the first time our communication process and procedure was modified. And then just visually looking at the object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human.
How close did you get?
Well, I was a helicopter pilot and I operate with 150 foot to 200 foot long line. So I got within 150 feet of this object.
What did you see?
I saw an egg, a white egg.
Was there any visible propulsion system on it?
No, not what we would know. There's no engine, there was no thermal signature. I was operating at night when I finally came in to pick it up, so I'm working under night vision goggles at the time. And it was quite clear. I flipped them up, flipped them down, and looked at it a couple of different ways.
How large was the object?
I would say approximately 20 feet, plus or minus a little bit, about the size of a large SUV.
Did it have any seams?
No.
What? And it was
seamless.
Pure white?
It was like pearly white, like a metallic pearly white, the best I could assess.
How did you know that that egg-shaped object was non-human in origin?
Well, visually, it was clearly something that was ridiculously looking. It's inconsistent with anything I'd ever seen before. We all knew we were dealing with something extraordinary.
This video, provided exclusively to NewsNation, shows a similar alleged egg retrieval. And while Jake Barber wasn't operating in Arizona, many Sedona locals say the so-called legacy program does have another secret base here. Author and longtime Sedona resident Tom Dongo has been a proponent of this theory for years.
Do you think there's some kind of secret, perhaps underground base?
Yes, absolutely.
Like many locals, Tom believes much of this activity centres on and around a property known as the Bradshaw Ranch, and he says he has evidence to prove it.
So on the Bradshaw Ranch, the owner, Linda Bradshaw, asked me to come out because I was known as a researcher and look at some of this stuff, and we saw strange things flying around.
Like what?
Well, this, for example.
What is that?
Strange lights. Well, I took this photograph myself, and this is just off the Bradshaw Ranch, but these things, these orbs of light would come out of the ground and fly off.
What's your theory?
Well, it's interdimensional. I think it's coming from other dimensions, most of it. And on the Bradshaw Ranch, there was a portal. So is this just U.S. military, or is it just alien, or are they together?
Hypothetically, if they have recovered craft, someone's hiding it somewhere, aren't they?
Well, that we know.
And can I ask you, do you know those locations?
I cannot elaborate on what the government might or might not have in its possession and where it might be located.
The Pentagon won't allow Elizondo to elaborate publicly on the matter. So we made our own visit to the Bradshaw Ranch with Jeremiah and Alexandra to see what's going on there for ourselves. The property now lies abandoned, except for this interesting fenced-off area being used for scientific research.
Let me ask you this. The sign here says that this is the Southwest Experimental Garden Array, or Cigar. So it's not a military facility at all. It's a scientific project. Have we got it wrong?
Well, that's what they're saying, but the locals know that something else is going on, so that's more of a cover story.
You're saying not only is this a secret military base, it's also the site of a paranormal location.
Very much so.
The theory, as wacky as it may sound, is that UAPs spotted all around Arizona are travelling through an interdimensional portal that is now part of a deep underground military base. But before we buy into that, we wanted to see if we can observe any of these UAPs for ourselves.
So this is your secret spot, Melinda?
Yes, yes.
UFO tour guide Melinda Leslie has spent 13 years spotting anomalies in the desert skies just outside Sedona.
I can say unequivocally from all the tours that I've done that sightings here are extremely real.
People talk about an underground base. You say with certainty that there is one.
Well, there is a tremendous amount of evidence.
Well, Melinda, we'd like to see it for ourselves. Can we come out with you this evening?
Please come. I'm looking very forward to showing you.
Everybody come, go ahead and grab yourself a chair.
So it's coming up to midnight and Melinda's been seeing increased activity, anomalous objects doing extraordinary things and often escorted by dozens of military helicopters. So we're hoping we might see some tonight. Okay, Melinda, what are these things?
Well, these are the PVS-7 Generation 3 military night vision goggles. And they allow us to see roughly 50,000 times more light than you see with our naked eyes. The bases under these hills and on the other side from where we are. So we're looking for anything moving. Now, there's
an orb straight ahead of me.
There's two together right there.
Oh,
Here's
look,
military coming up.
Yeah, there's a military chopper coming up. Oh, wow. So this is what you're talking about. There's a military chopper in proximity to those objects.
Yeah, so there's these two here, and there's these two right here. And he came up right behind them.
So, if nothing else, Melinda, I'm satisfied that I'm seeing a lot of choppers hovering and moving with purpose around other objects which are demonstrably anomalous.
Yes.
Is there a connection that ties it all together? What we've seen in Sedona, the Phoenix Lights, the ancient Native American sightings, and the Border Patrol videos Bob Thompson has made public. Before you decide, Bob still has one more video to share with the public.
It's nothing that I've ever seen before.
That video has never been released until tonight. What it shows and what it all means next. From watching videos to witnessing with our own eyes, we can now say with virtual certainty something strange is happening in the skies over Arizona. No, we didn't find a secret government base, a portal, or a crashed UFO. But we did find plenty of reasons, from videos to documents to expert and eyewitness testimony, to keep investigating. And as the New Jersey drone plague underscored, this is no longer a matter of curiosity, it's a matter of national security. So it seems only right that we return to the man who started this whole investigation with one brave act.
Has whistleblowing taken a toll on you?
It has.
Sir, I hope one day there comes a time in America where people like you, who've had the courage to come forward, are properly recognised and honoured.
I really applaud Bob for what he did. I'm glad it came out.
Until that day comes, Bob will keep doing what he's doing.
You think there's something there, don't you?
I do think there's something there. What it is, I don't know. But I think it is non-human.
And now he has one more piece of video evidence to share with the world.
What do you call that one?
That one I think is known as the Cigar video.
Bob says not much is known about this sighting other than that it was shot by a CBP reconnaissance plane, probably an RC-26, which usually flies at about 25,000 feet. The plane was in the same vicinity as the rubber duck when it captured this object moving quickly in a straight line without discernible wings or propellers.
So that's the object you're talking about. It's like a stubby little cylinder.
That's correct.
The thing I find fascinating is that in the FOI'd US Air Force reports, there are pilots that report coming across cylindrical objects at hugely high altitudes.
Well, that might fit the bill.
To be certain, we return to the scientists at the SCU for analysis.
It's nicknamed the Cigar, and we'd like you to have a look at it.
There seems to be an effect following it, like a trail. And that could be the fact that it's got propulsion. So then they have to question is Could this be a missile?
A missile? Maybe. But Peter Reale has a different take.
The intriguing part is it doesn't seem to have any lift capability of any lift mechanism. It doesn't appear to have an engine. It's one solid color. So usually it would have a hot engine and perhaps a cold surface. It maintains its shape and moves along. So
it's a genuine mystery.
Yeah, just don't know what to make out of it.
One thing we know for sure, that this investigation can and must continue.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.